Oh my god, how did we get here? How is it already November? I don't know. Hi everybody, welcome to today's video. Today we are recapping round 7 of the Women's Grand Swiss of 2023. I have some really cool games for y'all today. The players had a rest day yesterday, so they are coming in with more energy. We are in the later half of the tournament, y'all. We only have 11 rounds and we're on round 7, so we're getting into the home stretch. The players know that if they're going to be in the running, they need to score or stay at the top or try and get some wins. If you're at the bottom, you definitely need to be winning. If you're totally at the bottom, then you're probably not going to be getting one of those two candidate spots, but at least maybe you'll go more than 50% for the tournament. So let's see what happens. We have right now Anna Muzychuk, who is the sole leader of the tournament with 5 points. People are trailing behind her. Some people have 4.5. And there's a couple players with 4.5. All right, the first round that I have for y'all is between two youngsters. Both of them this is the second board. So they are both fighting. They both are, I believe, at 4.5 out of 6. Yeah, 6. And so they're both looking to score a win. This is a very important game. It is Bibisara Asabeva, who is currently 2469, an international master. She was in first place like 2 rounds ago, and then she lost, and now she's going into today. And she is versing Vaishali Rameshbabu, who is currently 2448. She is an international master, but she actually just got her 3rd GM norm, and she is looking to get to 2500, and that's all she needs, and then she'll be a GM. So in my head, she's kind of already a GM because she's definitely going to hit 2500 soon, especially with her play during this tournament. She has been playing superb chess, and she honestly really has a shot at the candidates. So let's see what happens. We have Bibisara with the white pieces and Vaishali with the black pieces. So we see her start off with knight to f3, which is the ready. We get knight f6, g3, a very slow setup, c5, bishop g2, knight c6, and c4. And this is kind of like a ready English type of setup now. And we get d5, c takes d5, knight takes, knight c3, and knight backs up to c7. She does not want to trade that knight on c3, castles, e5, a3, and rook b8. After, also not gonna lie, y'all, I saw this and I was like, what is going on? What is this setup? So we see rook b8, d3, bishop e7, knight to d2, castles, knight to c4, rerouting of the knight, f6, and now f4, trying to break everything open. We get e takes, bishop e6, and now Bibisara plays e4. And the reason this is kind of a weird move is the center pawns for white can actually become targets, especially after rook e8. And so e4 from white kind of gives black a beautiful square here for their knight to jump into d4. So this is actually a really weakening move, and it's not the best. But okay, we see e4, rook c8, queen e2, knight to d4, jumping in, attacking the queen with tempo, queen to f2, sliding over, b5, attacking the knight, takes, queen takes, and now the knight slides out of the way to e3, bishop to d6, king to h1, bishop e5, and black just has honestly a really nice position. This bishop is going to blockade these pawns. The pawns are going to become targets. Black just has a really nice position. This bishop is literally doing nothing, and b2 and d3 are weaknesses in white's position. So we see black have a beautiful control over the dark squares. We see a few pawn trades, and now rook to a7, trying to jump into the 7th rank. Rook a8, offering a trade. Rook a1, moving over. We get a trade. And now queen to b8, attacking the rook. Rook to a5. Queen to b7. Queen to e1, defending the rook. And now knight to c6, attacking the rook. We get rook a2, rook a8, queen to a1, offering a trade. And now after the trade here, Vaishali plays queen to a7. She actually didn't need to play this immediately. She could have played king to f7 and protected her bishop from any type of tactics, because now after what she plays instead of queen to a7, we get knight takes f6 check, and oh no, the pawn is dropping because look at this. And so we get king to f7, and now takes, and she wins this pawn too. And so it's like, oh, this is not great. Bishop takes b2 though, so now white is just up a pawn. However, after knight to g5 check, king to f6, knight takes e6, we get a trade, and now king g1. And this move, believe it or not, which looks so normal, looks so natural, is actually a losing move. All right, so this looks crazy because this just looks normal. Bring your king into the game to stop those pawns because the b pawn is super strong. That's a passed pawn. So king to g1 though, and what she needed to play instead of king g1 was bishop to f3. The bishop has to be able to come around this way and stop the pawns. But she doesn't play that. She instead plays king g1. And after king g1, bishop to d4. And you have walked into the pin. The knight cannot move. And now, after king to f2, b4, here comes the pawns. Bishop h3 check, king to f7. And king to f7 is actually really nice because you're not letting black get any checks in with her knight. Say here she would have gone like king to e5 instead. Now I get to play king e2. And after bishop takes, king takes, knight to c6, I'm able to bring my pieces over and you do not have enough time to be able to promote that pawn. And white would be safe. She would be totally fine and she's just in time to stop that pawn. And instead she plays the beautiful king to f7. And now white's going to definitely not get any checks in to be able to rearrange her pieces. After king to e2, b3, running that pawn, knight to c4, saying, I'm going to try and stop that pawn. Oh no, but b2. How are you going to try and stop that pawn? You're going to have to sacrifice a piece. And she does. And now Vaishali is just up a clear piece after bishop to d7. This is a nice move. She's basically trying to control the knight. These are all the squares the knight can go to, but the king can just chase the bishop away. And after bishop a4, Vaishali is able to convert this game into a very nice win. She's up a piece and it is very nice. And even though white has these pawns, black is able to move her pieces around and convert this into a winning game. And this is a very nice win from Vaishali. Honestly, Bibisata just played a bit of a weird move and playing e4 earlier on in the game and creating a lot of holes in her position. And so eventually Vaishali was able to clutch out the win. And good for her. She honestly deserves this win. And look at this. She's able to clean up. And this is where Bibisata resigned and Vaishali won. And Vaishali goes to 5.5. All right, so this game is between Grandmaster Maria Muzychuk, who is currently 25-19, versus Grandmaster Antonetta Stefanova, who she is currently 24-24. Both of these women are former world champions, which I think is a pretty cool matchup. So let's see how this goes. We have Maria with the white pieces and Antonetta with the black pieces. All right, we get e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e5, Aureli Lopez, a6, bishop backs up, and d6, castles, bishop to d7, c4, and bishop to g4. The bishop moves twice for black. Maybe black is saying that the d4 square might be a hole later for the knights to occupy, but then d4 actually comes from white, and we get e takes, and here it's actually a little tricky. You cannot take this pawn. If you take with the knight being pinned, it's like, oh great, oh b5. And you do not have queen to d7, because of knight g to e7, and you have a double attack now on the bishop and the queen, and this would not work at all. So she's not able to take that pawn this way. If instead she plays bishop takes first, and after pawn takes, queen takes, bishop takes here, and now her king side would be ruined, and so she probably doesn't want to go into this and have to play with a horrible king side. So she decides to play instead rook e1, not taking the pawn, and now bishop to e7, h3, bishop takes f3, queen takes, bishop takes, e5. And now d takes e5, bishop takes c6 finally, b takes, and now queen takes c6. King to f8, and black is just up a pawn. She was not able to block with her queen because the queen has a job and it's and it's defending this rook. So she would not be able to block, and that's why she has to move her king. We get knight to d2, knight e7, queen moves back, knight g6, knight e4, and bishop e7. And black honestly kind of has everything covered and has two strong central pawns. So knight to g3, rook b8, knight to f5, h5, b3, and now king to g8. White needs to open up lines to get her rooks into the game, like immediately. And Maria has over a 40-minute time advantage. She had an hour and 6 minutes, and Antonetta had 19 minutes. And this is only move 19. So she takes some time, Maria, and she takes 30 minutes to play queen to g3. After queen to g3, bishop f6, bishop to a3. She has to get her bishop into the game somehow. And so she plays now bishop g5, h4 attacking the bishop. Bishop moves back. Rook a to d1 saying, I guess I'll just bring my rooks to the center. Queen slides over attacking the knight. Queen to f3 defends. Bishop takes h4 though. And now you don't have a pawn. Bishop c1. And now black is up 2 pawns. Bishop f6. Knight h6 check. And she goes for the sacrifice. Rook takes h6. Bishop takes h6. And knight to h4. And it doesn't work. What are you going to do? If you play here thinking, okay, maybe I'll just, try and take advantage of this pin. Knight to f5. And now I'm attacking both pieces. Oh, and so that doesn't work. And the sacrifice doesn't work. She plays queen takes h5, at least saying, I guess I'll get a pawn out of this. And after g takes h6, rook to d3, saying, I guess I'll, swing on over. Knight g6 though. Queen takes h6, and yes, she gets the pawn. But after queen g4, rook g3, queen to f5, rook f3, there's just no follow-up. How is white going to infiltrate? These minor pieces are doing an amazing job of protecting the king. She plays now bishop g7, queen to d7. We get queen e7, offering a trade of queens. And if the queens are not on the board, black is completely winning. So she cannot accept a queen trade. Maria moves back. Rook b6 attacking the queen. Queen checks. Bishop f8 blocks. Rook e4. c5, just solidifying that pawn structure in the center. Queen to d5. Queen e6 offering a trade of queens. No trade. Queen d8. f5. And this is just a completely winning game for black. There's just no way for white to make progress. And she's able to harass the queen. And then here comes the pawns. So we see her try and stop these pawns. And there's just no way. Black has just a beautiful defense. And her minor pieces protect her. And these pawns are rolling down the board. She tries to create some threats. This is move 52. Both players have hit time control, so they had an extra 30 minutes added after move 40. So they're really not in time trouble. We get queen b7 check. And then after a couple more moves, Antonetta is able to solidify this position. And after a queen trade, finally we get bishop to h4 check. King slides over, bishop to e1. And this is such a pretty move. After, you can't take, obviously, because if you take, I will just take like this. And then if you take, I am just up a full knight. So there's really no way of going about this. She has to do it like this. And so after bishop e1, she cannot take rook to g5, rook d4, king to f3, and after knight to h4, Maria resigned. And that was the game. A very pretty game from Antonetta. She gets the full point, y'all, and she is back in the running. She is very happy to get this extra point. This is a huge win for her. We shall see where it takes her from here. So let's move on to our next game. I really liked this game between two former women world champions. I think that's pretty sick to see a matchup like that, not in a world championship. So that's pretty cool. All right, this next game, y'all, is very high stakes. Okay, so it's between Grandmaster Tan Zhuangyi, who is 25-17. She had a great start to the tournament. She was on board one pretty much throughout the whole thing until she got to round 5, and she lost to Bibisara. So that was a huge loss for her, and then she had a draw. And now going into this game, she's facing International Master Savrula Solakido, who is 23-85, and she actually wants that third GM norm. So Tan Zhuangyi is fighting to make the candidates, and Savrula is fighting to get that GM norm. So very high stake game for both players. They really want to win, and both have 4 points. All right, so we have Tan Zhuangyi with the white pieces. She starts us off with her classic d4. We get knight f6, and we get a King's Indian. I was so excited to see this. I love looking at King's Indian games. So we get castles, bishop g2, d6. Oh, so nice. I don't think I've gone over a King's Indian game in this recap so far throughout this whole tournament. So I'm very excited to be going over this. So we get knight to f3, knight b to d7, castles, and e5. Very normal play. We get e4, and now e takes, knight takes, rook e8, attacking the pawn, which is defended twice, but the rook definitely wants to be on that square. We get h3, knight c5, rook to e1, h6, rook b1, a5, and now b3, bishop d7 developing, and knight d to b5. This is a really nice square for that knight. I'm very happy. Normally, I think people see prior to a5, I think c6 is sometimes played to stop the knight from coming to this square. But okay, a5 is fine. All right, so after knight d to b5, we get queen to c8, defending the pawn, h4, and h4 was a little bit strange. It's okay. However, I think king to h2 would have been a little bit better, just because now black can cement after playing h4. She can cement a knight here, and it's kind of just really nice for black. So obviously that's why she moved this pawn, is because it was being attacked. So the options were only king to h2 or h4. But instead of seeing the knight move to g5, she actually plays bishop to g5 instead. And after bishop g5, she's basically saying, hey, if you play f3, that's going to weaken your king even further. And Tanzani's like, okay, fine, I won't play f3 then. I'll just play queen to c2. So we get queen d7, bishop to f4, knight to h5, attacking the bishop and threatening to wreck that king side. Bishop slides back. And now c6, attacking the knight. Knight moves back. And now we get f5, trying to blow up the center. I love this move. Very King's Indian-esque. We get queen to d2, f takes e4, bishop takes h6, knight to f6. She doesn't take the bishop on g7, knight a4, knight takes, pawn takes, rook e7, rook b3, queen to e8, and still nobody is taking that bishop. We get rook e to b1, and now finally somebody takes one of the bishops. Bishop takes h6, queen takes, queen to f7, and now queen to g5. Rook slides over to f8, rook 1 to b2, and we get a few more moves. Black is able to win a pawn, and then after knight to f4, she's threatening to take this pawn. We get rook to g7 defending, queen takes a5, winning back the pawn, d5, and look at this also, connect 4, hey, queen to d4, queen to b4, and queen to b1 check. She had literally no time. Technically, Stavroula has a slight advantage, especially with these pawns being so dominating and this bishop being horrible, but she had literally no time. So she plays queen to d1 check, and then after bishop to f1, she plays with less than a minute. This is move 34. They have not hit time control. She plays knight to h5. And now rook b1, and the queen has no way of escaping. If you try and go here, I get to play bishop to h3, and this is completely winning. The queen is literally trapped. She has no way of getting out. She can't go anywhere, and so she would be forced to play this, and this is just completely losing, so she cannot leave. And then if she goes to d2, which is what she does in the game, after rook b2, queen to d1, where are you going to go? And white has a forced repetition, and Tanzania had to decide if she wanted to go for it, and she does. And the game was a draw, which, very exciting game for both players. The game ended on move 38. Neither player hit time control. Tanzania was a bit higher in time. I believe she had at least 12 minutes. But she said, let's definitely go for the draw here. I don't think that I have any type of advantage, and which honestly was a great choice by her. So Stavroula sadly blunders the advantage a bit, and she has to take this draw. And so neither player gets the win that they wanted, and that was the game for them. All right, so these were our results from round 7. We had a draw on board 1 with Anna Muzychuk versus Alexandra Goryachkina. It was a relatively tame game, and both players were just playing for a draw. And so we saw 2 decisive results, huge wins for both players. We had a draw here. We had a huge win for Sophie Milliet. We had a whole bunch of more decisive results with the players that were 3.5. I'm scrolling to show y'all the results. Oh, Elena Robers. Oh my God, this game was heartbreaking. She was literally winning, but in low time she blundered and it was a loss. It was very sad. She had that game in the palm of her hand, but in low time just blundered it. And then these were the rest of the results. Pause if you want to see if anybody that you were rooting for won or lost. And then let's go to the standings. Right, and these are our standings. We have a three-way tie for first. Vaishali tied with 5.5 with Anna Muzychuk and Antonetta. Ooh, this is a spicy standing. I'm very excited. We have 2 players with 5 points, just trailing by half a point. A ton of players with 4.5. And then we have a ton of players with 4. And then these are the rest of our standings. We shall see what tomorrow brings us. I am very excited to see what happens tomorrow. These are our matchups for tomorrow. Ooh, it's going to be exciting. We have a huge fight on board 1 and board 2 and board 3. And let me know who you're rooting for in the comments, please. I want to know. I was really rooting for Elena Robers, but I don't think it's possible for her to get a candidate spot anymore. And I am currently rooting for Vaishali. All eyes are on Vaishali. I really want her to be able to get this candidate spot. I think that would be great. And yeah, let me know who you're rooting for. And I hope you all enjoyed the video and have a great rest of your day. Bye.